Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode within the Day Room. Tonight we're going to be going back to one of the basics that we've done in the past, talking about some conspiracy theory stuff. Yay! Tonight we're talking two specific concepts that have been present they've been prevalent in the last couple of years due to various, let's just call them important people taking a long drive off of a short pier, or the long jump, whichever term you want to use. Tonight we are talking about the conspiracy / mythology of insectoid beings that may or may not live among us here on Earth, and reptilian beings that may or may not live among us here on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
For our panel tonight, you can see who's already decided to come and join us. We've got our contemplative jackal tonight. You have anything you wish to say to the group?
Oh, just welcome to your brain having to go into the corners that it usually doesn't want to because it either hurts your brain too much or because it's too much of a rabbit hole and you just don't feel like it because you're mentally lazy.
And our other panel member tonight so far, you know him, you enjoy listening to him, you probably enjoy the avatars he throws up more than anything else. MGTOW Outlaw.
Hey guys, yeah, this should be a fun topic. I'm not really a big fan of bugs and all that stuff, but hey, I'm open to learning some new things. So, yeah, I'm excited. Let's get to it.
He just doesn't. We just don't like his singing.
Yeah, well, apparently.
Well, the bug part of this is going to be rather short because in modern day, insectoids have this tendency of only showing up in one of two situations: a alleged UFO crash or an alleged alien abduction.
Okay.
I'm honestly not sure which of those scenarios is worse. However, in ancient history, there are myths, legends, and some could argue an entire religion built around alien, or what we would nowadays call alien insects, saving a culture. So that's where we are going to start today. The ancient Hopis have a myth that at the beginning of their history, the prototype for their culture was rescued from a massive natural disaster by a race of people that they describe as the Ant People. The imagery for these individuals looks very insectoid, but they also look very technological. Almost like a little bit more primitive version of what George Lucas probably had in mind with this. Oh, St. Louis Arch, thank you. Any of you who are Babylon 5 fans are going to recognize this lovely individual.
Looks like a wasp.
Yep.
In Babylon 5, this is a sentient life form known as Nagash. Or correction, Nagrath. And it was a gangster. There's no other way to put it. It was a gangster. It thought that it was the best of everything. That was a good movie, Slick South, but that was a slightly different scenario. That was a mad scientist playing around with teleportation technology and had a fly land on the same platform that he was on, and their genes got spliced together.
Just.
Oh yeah, the visuals are absolutely disgusting on that one. It's a good movie if you ever feel the need to get freaked out by 1950s, 1960s horror or sci-fi horror.
Yeah.
But
Horror
in the
movies
Hopi legend,
are okay.
in the Hopi legend, the proto-Hopi civilization was taken underground by these individuals that they called the Ant People, and were allowed to stay there until whatever the emergency on the surface was came to an end. Then they were brought back up, and allegedly had had no direct contact with the Ant People again, with the exception of possibility of their equivalent of the end times, having the Ant People come back and take a select few back into shelter. On the opposite side of the world, there is another myth about Ant People. Have you ever heard the story of the Myrmidon? Jackal, I just told you this story earlier, so you don't get to answer the question.
Okay.
Sounds familiar. I think I've
Okay.
heard of it.
I may be mixing up some of the data here, so forgive me, gentlemen, especially if you're fans of ancient Greco-Roman mythologies. In ancient Greek, there is a story where Athens was about to be overrun by one of their rival city-states, probably Sparta, because those two were always at each other's throats. The patron deity of Athens one night saw the desolation of her city, and Athena wept. Where her tears hit the ground, ant-like life forms came out of the ground, every one of them equipped with a bronze breastplate, a spear, and a shield. They formed up in ranks, and they worked to drive the opposing army before them until the Athenians could rally and finish pushing the opposition force back to their home territory.
That's terrifying.
Well, if you are familiar with, if you've ever watched ants, they have this very almost hive-like mentality.
Yeah.
They almost always seem to act as though they're machines or cogs in a machine and less individual machines themselves. A beehive, individual bees will act in their own self-interest to a certain extent. An ant colony, those little boogers are literally doing things all on their own, or all focused on protecting the main colony. They are not acting as individuals.
Yeah.
Now, I said that there is some modern tie-in to this. Here is where things get a little fruity. Gentlemen, pour yourself a stiff one, because this is where it gets really weird. Modern day descriptions of ant-like individuals are usually only encountered during UFO abduction stories.
Oh, well, here we go.
Sometimes they are actively participating in whatever horrific action is being done to the people in these stories. Other times they're standing back and watching, as though they're controlling smaller life forms doing this stuff. Jackal, have you played Fallout 4's Mothership Zeta?
I have. Is that a DLC?
Yeah, it is.
I have not gotten any of the DLCs.
If you ever want to have some fun in Fallout, that DLC is well worth it. And there's a point where you don't get to shoot at the thing, you don't get to interact with it in any way, shape, or form, but you see a potential insectoid leaving the ship that you're on and going to another ship. In real-world UFO conspiracy, it is thought that the insectoids are essentially more advanced versions of the Greys that have their own minds and have their own control or capability of controlling themselves. whereas the Greys themselves are essentially seen as organic automatons.
Yikes.
Interesting.
So, any comments, concerns, questions?
Man, I really can't say too much because the only information that I have on stuff like that is all, well, government released information, which we all know the how reliable that can be.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
well, in terms of the Greys being nothing more than organic automatons, that would kind of make sense. But at the exact same time, I wouldn't know how you could come close to proving that. And again, I am not one of those conspiracy theory guys that goes out there and tries to establish a network to gather information on that. Because it's just not my forte. Plus, I'm not very good at establishing networks. So, well, that's problem number one.
Well, we've talked about it on Rhino streams before. Me personally, my opinion, I can't say definitively 100% that there are or there's not alien life forms. But for me, Area 51 is a cover up for technology that they don't want in the hands of other people. That's just my opinion, though.
I'd say that's a fair assessment.
Well, it's kind of
And
like the God question. You can't say definitively he is or he isn't. So you just say, I don't know, right? Well, that's just my opinion anyway. But
well, it's kind of the same thing that I was mentioning to Jackal before the stream. I don't want a hardcore skeptic or a hardcore believer in these conversations.
right.
I want the open-minded skeptic or open-minded believer.
Sure.
And here's my way of differentiating on those. The hardcore on either side, you can provide all sorts of evidence for the contrary to what they believe, and it's not going to do a lick of good. They're still going to believe what they want to believe, and nothing you say to them or give to them is going to give them any reason to change their outlook. The open-minded skeptic or open-minded believer is going to be willing to listen to what you have to say, look at your evidence, and say, yeah, okay, you've got a little bit there that I'm willing to look into, but I'm not willing to buy into your side of the equation just yet.
Right. Right. And that's why I say that, it's not a definitive they exist or they don't exist, which is why I say possibility is always there. Absolutely.
And my fuzzy little overlord here does not want me talking about the feline aliens, so don't even ask about that one.
But there are so many Egyptian gods that were depicted as felines or feline in nature.
Yeah, I know, and I'm sure that my little friend here doesn't want me bad-mouthing Bass at all.
Evie probably doesn't even know who the hell that is.
Honestly, with as smart as some of these cats that I've been around are, I don't know.
You'll be fine. Besides,
Yeah,
you're a specialist, so you should be fine.
That's a joke anyway.
But yeah, I mean, that is true. I mean, with any of this stuff, you can't just definitively write it off, right?
Exactly. Now, I'm going to plant a bug in everybody's ear real quick.
Okay.
Many of you who pay attention to the news remember that around August of last year, there were reports of a small village in Peru being, quote-unquote, attacked by tall, bulletproof extraterrestrial life forms. A group of which tried to apparently take a young girl with them and or remove her face.
Oh God.
Now, allegedly, these particular life forms are just turned out to be illegal miners, but there's parts of the story that don't add up.
Sure.
So, hang on a second, I gotta disentangle myself from my cat.
That gonna cat.
But, in this particular event, the villagers claimed that the attackers were between 8 and 10 feet tall,
Okay.
had some kind of flight or anti-gravitational capabilities, and did not respond to being shot. I can't think of any mining organization out there that has anything that even resembles that kind of capabilities.
Mhm.
Can you guys?
No.
Not to my knowledge. I mean, yeah, there are such thing as some exosuit type apparati that you can wear, but that's usually reserved for very, very well funded private owners that are just enthusiasts in technology or the military,
Now,
but not miners.
here's my other thought on this. The only way the story about this being illegal miners trying to get those villagers off that land makes sense is if they pull a Hollywood type maneuver where they have a bunch of cranes or similar devices rigged with massive mannequins that they can move around and make it look like they're floating and not being impacted by bullets.
And even with that, you would hear the cranes moving.
You
And also
see
you
where
probably would
the
see.
flaw is.
Yes, don't see how the hell that would work.
Especially in the Peruvian jungle.
Yeah, there's a little, something that would hinder those called trees.
Well, not only that, but we have no idea how rocky or muddy the ground was because we know they're near a river.
Yeah,
we
so
don't-
trying to get a crane in there and stabilized on that very shifty, muddy, and very sinky kind of ground, it would be
Yeah.
difficult.
Okay,
Even
so
though,
so do you guys think we have swatted the bugs good enough?
on that story, yeah, because that one just makes
Oh,
no
yeah.
fucking sense.
I'm just talking about just in general. Do you think we've gone and beat up the insectoid critters enough? Or do we want to continue spraying them with cans of virtual raid?
Virtual raid. Oh, kind of like your subcategory there. All this for a can of raid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, we could probably just move on because really we would need access to more data to prove this. And let's
Okay,
be
we are
honest,
going
we're
to
not the next
exit-
coast to coast.
We are going to remove the bugs.
Okay.
Okay. This is the one that we're gonna have some fun with. Because this is a conspiracy rabbit hole that it goes deep, it goes long, and it goes all over the world.
Hmm.
Reptilian,
Just like Pop's ex. Oh,
allegedly. Don't get him sued, man.
he's not going to get
Reptilian.
sued. There's no way.
Reptilians. Yes, I have heard of this one.
Okay. Are you aware of the ancient origins of the reptilian theory?
And not right offhand, no.
Okay. I cannot point to any one myth or legend that is the origin point for this story, like I can do with the Ant People. What I can do is point to the fact that in the Old Testament of the Christian Bible and in what's known as the Jewish Torah,
Mm-hmm.
they refer to the spawn of Satan as reptilian in appearance. Satan himself is described as that serpent of old.
Yep. Snake.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much every time an ancient religion or mythology describes a reptilian life form, it's always in a negative context. There's a few of them where it's seen as quasi-positive. St. Louis Arch, you're beating us to what's going to be a topic of discussion, but I appreciate that. Because it may not just be British royalty. If you follow the theory.
I like where his head's at.
Yeah, not up his ass.
But here is an artist rendition of what they typically think the average reptilian alien looks like in its natural form.
Okay.
Not something I'd really want to invite over for dinner on a Friday night.
No.
But not something I would run screaming out of the room if I saw it. Unless, of course, it was like 10 feet tall and its diet consisted of warm-blooded mammals. Which outlaw you'd need to be worried.
You'd see it and say, "What up, Ligger?"
No, I would probably be eaten before I could even say that.
I'd be eaten.
I'm just saying.
Hey, what's up?
So now, in modern times, the reptilians have shown up in a few different ways. They've popped in all sorts of science fiction. They've popped in pretty much every conspiracy theory about shadow governments that's been known. And they've popped in popular culture.
I think they've even
Outlaw.
popped up in pop.
Have you ever seen the classic Battlestar Galactica?
I think so. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Do you remember who the Cylons reported to?
Oh, shit. Not right offhand, no.
I'm going to show a couple images here of what the Cylons in the original Galactica referred to as the Imperious Leader.
Okay.
Now, here is where things are fun with this particular image. First of all, this is how they would regularly be seen in the show. You'd have the little Cylon Centurion down here at the bottom of the dais, looking up to an individual that was just barely able to be made out, wearing a shiny crimson robe, who had a vaguely reptilian appearance. Now, I'm going to go ahead and bring this full screen so everyone can see it a little bit more clearly, because honestly, it's a good bit of fan art. Again, you have the light right here, and this is almost exactly the way it was shown on the show. Here's the Cylon Centurion, the walking chrome toaster, the dais, and then the throne that the Imperious Leader would be sitting on.
Okay.
I am going to call up an artist's rendition of what the face of the Imperious Leader would have looked like.
Okay.
Get ready. This one is interesting.
Huh. Okay. Looks like a Kardashian.
No, in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Cardassians are an alien race.
Ah, okay.
And they're actually slightly more useful than the social media influencer that shares the name with them.
Interesting. This one looks kind of like a fish head with Rick James Jerry curl on it. A little bit.
Now, come on. Tommy's not here to defend himself. God, Now that's just cruel there, man. That's mean.
Fish head.
That's mean. That's mean, man.
Yeah, I need to get a few more of those clips to actually utilize.
When I was a young Kardashian.
There are probably some better ones than that one before. Oh my gosh.
Growing up in the ghetto.
But here's the thing when it comes to any version of the reptilian conspiracy. They're almost always described as shapeshifters. They're almost always described as malicious in some way, shape, or form.
Okay.
And they're almost always described as being quote-unquote warmongering. Now, in the last, let's say, 50 years, what have most Western governments been described as?
Warmongering fools.
Well, we're not necessarily going to worry about the fools part, but warmongering and malicious do seem to be at the top of the list of adjectives used to describe our governments currently.
Yeah.
Oh, and Cliff, you did forget one reptilian from DS9. You forgot the Jem'Hadar. Actually, let's see if I can find them real quick. Because those are some freaky looking dudes, too.
Reptilian leaders. Interesting. Yeah.
What a
I
bunch of reppy butt fucks.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it, being cold-blooded like a snake, some of the actions that these people make. And a lot of similarities, comparisons.
Okay, I have just found an image that has a nice side-by-side of the classic Jem'Hadar from Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
And the slightly newer ones from Star Trek Online. Don't worry, Outlaw. This will not be nightmare fuel for you.
Okay. Give me some.
Reptilian in nature.
Now, here's the interesting thing with the Jem'Hadar.
Yeah.
They grow to maturity from an infant to an adult ready for combat in roughly 7 days.
Oh, wow.
Once they hit their equivalent of puberty, they become addicted to a chemical compound known as Ketracel White. If they don't have this, their body breaks down and they die.
Oh, shit.
They're also more violently malicious than the Klingons.
Wunderbar.
Interesting.
And they kind of straddle the line between what we were discussing with reptilian non-human entities and insectoid non-human entities. And here's how. They don't give a flying fart about their own lives.
Oh, wow.
You mean like the Imperial Japanese soldiers during World War II?
The Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode where the Jem'Hadar were introduced, the Federation sent 3 Runabout-class starships and a Galaxy-class, same make and model as the Enterprise D, into Dominion-controlled space to rescue some of their crewmen who had been taken captive by the Jem'Hadar. During the firefight between 3 Jem'Hadar fighters and what was essentially equivalent to a Yamato-type cruiser, the Jem'Hadar basically had eaten that Galaxy-class ship for lunch. They were the USS Odyssey, that Galaxy-class, was moving to escape. One of the Jem'Hadar attack ships rammed it, destroying the Odyssey in the process. It there's no reptile on this planet that's got that little self-control or little of a self-defense or self-preservation mechanism in its head that would willingly do that. However, there are plenty of insects that would.
Interesting.
But this has devolved into a Star Trek discussion, and I don't think that's where we were actually supposed to be going.
No, I don't think that was the intent.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Polska. So, in modern day, real world, quote unquote conspiracy, when it comes to the reptilians, it is thought that there are reptilian life forms that have taken over governments all over the planet and have taken the appearance of human leaders. Pretty much everyone who has been in government for a long period of time in the last about 100 years has been accused at one point or another of not being human and possibly being some form of reptile in disguise. This is everyone from the Queen of England, which pretty much everyone knows that one, to presidents of the United States. It's okay, Cliff. Not all of us have a computer program for a brain. Hey, Polska, I completely understand, and I am sorry. I don't mean to step on your toes. This is just the best time of the week for me to do a stream. Until I find something better, I'm doing my best to make sure I don't take away your audience, man. Which is why half of my streams are absolute nonsense and BS that most people who aren't super niche are going to care about.
Yeah, super niched or super beached.
Tomato,
But they could.
tomato.
I mean, some of them are mentally beached, though. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah, well, I like doing thought experiment streams with you guys.
Yeah.
If for no other reason than it takes the evidence that we already have, and it forces you to look at it in different ways.
Just don't call us on to stream to do a butt experiment, please.
Oh,
We are
God.
not going to do that. But what we are going to do is one of those little thought experiments right now.
Okay.
So, if you had a capability of infiltrating a less advanced species to observe and record them, preferably in a way where you would have little to no chance of exposure,
Yeah.
how would you do it? Now, let me lay a couple of ground rules here.
Yeah.
You have to use something that's organic and can thus reproduce itself on site and is smart enough to take active measures to avoid discovery without raising the alarm to the native populace.
Well, body snatching is something that comes to mind, or a skinwalker where they can shapeshift their appearance comes to mind.
Okay.
Which I actually created a series in my head based off of that, of an alien invasion where they snatched people's bodies and became those people, but that's already been done.
Oh yeah, that's a very common trope in modern science fiction, and actually it's present heavily in ancient mythologies.
I took the approach of The Walking Dead, so I wanted to do like a series like that on it. But the series got a lot more deeper, So these aliens, eventually was able to not only turn into humans, but like tigers and shit like that, animals.
Okay.
The basic premise was they gained the utmost trust from the human beings in whatever form they had to, like animals, humans, whatever, and then eventually they would kill them, eat them, whatever. But that was just my story.
Okay, Jackal. How would you go about doing this if you were masterminding a way to do something where you're observing a less advanced race for multiple generations?
Oh, well, there are a couple ways to go about it, but since you put the specific qualification of it having, or requirement that it had to be organic, one way you could do it is you could form a, not really an exosuit, but something similar of the type, but made out of organic tissue that does regenerate itself. So almost like the organic covering that Terminators, like the T-600s and T-800s, would have stretched over their endoskeleton. It
See, honestly,
was
I was thinking you were going kind of the Independence Day route with that.
I was actually. That was my second option. The second option was you have your actual infiltrator units, members of your own species, wearing an endosuit that, or exosuit that resembles the native populace or native species, but is controlled from within by your own species, almost like a mech,
And you
and
know
use
that
that.
that is very much the argument that is made when it comes to the reptilian conspiracy.
Well, the other way to do that
No, no, no. That
is
was that was intended as a compliment. Don't take it as me shooting you down.
no, I was not taking it that way. I was spouting another possibility. Since it's organic, does that have to work within the consides of you have to be directly in control, or can this be done remotely but through organic means?
Whichever works.
Because
We're,
I
we
know
are
that
talking
you're
about
not
a
a
hypothetical. We are talking about a hypothetical alien. They probably have ways of controlling stuff that we couldn't even begin to imagine.
correct. So that's why I was going to spout this next possibility. I know that you haven't watched all of the episodes of Star Wars The Clone Wars because you probably don't like Clone Wars.
Correct.
Okay, well, there was an episode where the Geonosians had a hive mind controlled parasite that
Ooh,
would
nice.
enter through any orifice, and it would control you, but at the same time, it had the ability to mimic human behavior. In the particular episode, several of the clone troopers that were deployed on a scouting mission to Geonosis had become infected, but they did not show signs of external or internal control until the parasite was trying to move from one host body to another. Other than that, they acted completely normal.
You
Something
know what
like
the
that is possible.
you know what the messed up thing is, Jackal? You've
That
probably never
actually
seen this because it's
exists.
such a niche. You've probably never seen this because it's such a niche show, and it only lasted for 1 year. They actually made a Starship Troopers animated series.
Uh,
The CGI was horrible on it, but the story was actually pretty darn good for something that was essentially a late 90s children's cartoon.
uh,
One of the bug types that the arachnids had developed was a controller bug that did
hmm.
almost exactly what you just described.
Yeah, so that it would have to be a form of oh, daggone it. There was another one. What was it?
It,
Trying to think. Divergent, was it? I think.
I have
Was
no
that
idea. I've never seen that.
the movie Divergent?
I know what you're referring to.
Yeah, so that one it could be of a Actually, that would be a decent scenario for it. Actually, a
Yeah,
good basis off of that. It
and
would
Cliff,
directly control them.
I'll point this out because I remember Xander from the movie and the novel. I actually slightly cheered when that happened to that guy. I hated that character with a passion.
Good grief.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. As much as we all hate the new Star Wars trilogy, I watched all three of them in theaters. I am probably the only one in the theater who actually verbally cheered when Poe Dameron got shot halfway through Rise of Skywalker,
Yeah.
and when General, whatever the heck his name was, the redheaded idiot, got shot right near the end of that same movie.
Oh, General
Hux.
Hux,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm probably the only one in the theater, at least the theater that I was present at, who cheered when both of those got shot.
Okay.
And my psycho ex-girlfriend who I was dating at the time, she looked at me like I was the most horrible human being on the planet, and I was like, "What? I hate those two."
Suck.
I mean, shoot, the only part of the previous movie, The Last Jedi, that I was really like, "Oh, that is going to hurt long term," was when BB-8's X-wing got spaced. And no, I don't call that black and orange piece of equipment Poe Dameron's. I call that BB-8's. Poe was the taximan. BB-8 was the actual operator.
Good. Yeah, well, I didn't really pay much attention to those movies anyways.
I don't blame you.
After Rogue One, I quit.
Oh,
I
Rogue One
watched
was
the Solo movie.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Movie, which was kind of a mistake, but Rogue One was pretty damn good, I have to say.
Oh yeah, they did a really good job with Rogue One. And
I-
then somehow they went terribly, terribly wrong.
I quit watching Star Wars after George Lucas sold it, so I don't really care.
I don't blame
Wow.
you.
That's a long time ago, but yeah, okay.
Hey,
I don't
well,
care anything about Disney.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't blame you one iota. I'm the only consistency with Disney's Star Wars is how inconsistent they've been. Okay,
Yeah.
Star Wars Rebels, their first action out of the gate with when Disney took over. Really well designed series. Yeah, it was a little kidified, but it actually showed stormtroopers getting shot and starships getting blown to smithereens.
Yeah, I mean, I like that, and you can actually get an idea of just how indoctrinatedly stupid some of those stormtroopers can be.
Mm-hmm. And what is really disturbing is when you realize about midway through season 2, some of the stormtroopers that you see Ezra, Sabine, and Zeb zapping are the same ones that Ezra was training with in the academy on Lothal.
Yeah.
I mean, once you realize that, it gets real dark real quick.
Not really. I mean, it's just the truth of war. You're gonna have
what I'm
those
getting at
that
is the
don't keep to
age of
themselves.
the troopers.
Again, it's my point still stands where I was starting at. It's war, and when you're talking about an empire, yeah, they don't care about that. They just care about bodies holding guns, wearing the uniform, enforcing the Emperor's will. The Cyber War was the exact same way. The Empress did not care. She said, "We'll give you these benefits here if you swear allegiance to me and fight in my army. Wherever
That does
I
remind
send
me,
you."
Jackal. There is something I stumbled upon while going over some of the background material I have for BattleTech.
Oh no.
There's an interstellar state in BattleTech that I'm going to send you the write-up for. You will
Oh, no.
love picking it apart.
Wait, as in criticism or just analyzing it like I have autism?
Both. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and just say it on the stream. Get a pen and paper handy, and Outlaw, you might want to do this too, because you will have fun tearing this one apart as well.
I don't even think I need a pen and paper for this. I just need to listen.
The Magistracy of Canopus.
What?
I'm going to give you a very brief rundown on this, because you both will have fun ripping it apart.
Okay.
The Magistracy of Canopus, which I'm just going to refer to as Canopians from now on, because to hell with that big word at the very beginning, is known as a periphery state of the inner sphere. It's not one of the big five. In BattleTech, they're treated as kind of like a second world country. They're not anywhere near as good as Russia, the United States, or China, but they're not Iraq.
Is that because they don't have access to something called an IFAC?
No, they probably have more advanced tech than that, because this is about 1,000 years in the future. But don't jump ahead. Don't jump ahead of me on the tech. We're not even touching on the tech. We're just going to touch on the country itself, because this is where you guys are going to have fun with it.
Okay.
The Canopians are a how do I say this correctly? They're a matriarchy, essentially.
Oh no! This is
They
already bad.
They are a quasi-feudal state run by a woman who goes by the title of Magistrix. It is supposed to be a hereditary title, but may or may not actually be. They are a nation of hedonists.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Jackal, did you ever read the Star Wars Legacy comic books?
No, I did not.
Okay, Outlaw, did you ever read those books?
I have not. No.
Okay, I thought one of you two had, so I was going to use an analogy from there, but never mind. They run... How do I phrase this where it'll make sense? What's that city in Europe that is known for having really well-advertised red light districts?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. What's it called?
They run Amsterdam-level pleasure palaces on each of the planets they control.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, that sounds about right. That sounds like
Their
something they would
military... Now, the funny thing is, their military isn't terrible for a periphery state. It's nowhere near up to the level of what one of the inner sphere states could do, with the possible exception of the Capellans. But the thing is, they can withstand your average pirate raid. They can withstand your average outlaw band raiding. They might even be able to push back against a semi-competent inner sphere military coming in and trying to take one of their planets by force. They don't give a flying fart about expanding their territory militarily.
Interesting.
The Magistress, during what was known as the Reunification War, she surrendered, but she did not surrender her state when Canopus was invaded. She was literally sleeping with the Crown Prince for the Free Worlds League for almost 5 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah, see, none of this is surprising, because the Cyber Empire was doing similar nonsense right there. They would quite literally bribe you with sex. That was it. They would just bribe you with that. That was their biggest coin.
Well, here's the thing. The Magistrix, she wasn't trying to bribe the guy with sex. She just didn't care. She was like, okay, you beat me. You beat my country. What are you going to do? If I surrender all the way, you're going to kill me. If I don't, you need a figurehead, so why should I not enjoy the process? That's literally what she said to the guy.
Interesting.
That's almost a verbatim quote from one of the books.
That's bootery. That's what that is.
Well, and honestly, we might do a stream talking about the BattleTech universe. Mainly
Okay.
because it's Game of Thrones in space with no magic and mechanical dragons.
I like
And
it.
with that, you have lost my interest.
Well, hang on. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. You will laugh at this, Jackal. If I can type.
I don't know. It takes quite a bit of effort to get me to laugh. I mean, other than laughing at Outlaw's pain sometimes by mentioning something like a box truck.
Wow.
Okay, I am about to share an image of a dragon in BattleTech. Get ready to be afraid. And bear in mind, this thing weighs 60 tons.
Be afraid. Oh.
Damn it, what is this? Stupid ads.
There we go.
Oh, a mech suit. I like it.
That's not a suit. That is a 3-story tall walking tank.
I like it.
So something reminiscent of
This arm
a
right here
Titan.
is either a particle cannon or a large laser.
I love it. I want one.
This weapon, this thing on the arm right here is either a large laser or a particle cannon, a long-range missile 10-pack, a small laser hidden underneath a very mechanical fist.
I got to get
And
me
that's
one
just
of those.
one of. Okay, you want to know how much that would run you there, Outlaw?
What's that?
If you were to purchase one of these, assuming the currency listed is equivalent to American dollars, you would need to have $36,800 just to purchase
Five?
one, a DRGN 1N from 2754. Assuming you could get
Five?
Luthien Armor Works to sell you one of these things.
$5 million. Nice.
Yeah.
No.
That's actually a cheap heavy.
It's a
Did I
giant
just break your
robot.
brain?
No, I've seen worse. Stuff like the Titans from Warhammer were absolutely
Well, okay,
preposterous.
These are roughly the size of the Knights from 40K.
Yeah, but not the Titan class, dreadnoughts or whatever they would have, the walking fortresses. Those
No,
were
these are not these are not the walking cathedrals from Warhammer. Now, I am going to go ahead, even though this is not the main topic of the stream. I'm sorry to keep sidetracking on this, but honestly, there really wasn't a huge plan for tonight's stream, and we already kind of hit the topics I was aiming to hit. I'm going to show you guys line art of my favorite mech design. And then we're going to go and take a look at how much this thing would run you if you were to purchase it, assuming you could get the manufacturer to sell it to you.
Yes, I like mechs. Giant robots of destruction. I love it.
Say hello to the Warhammer 2C Variant 4 as soon as it comes up.
Ooh.
That is 2 particle cannons, 2 extended range particle cannons, a small laser, and 2 advanced tactical missile 6-packs.
Ooh.
These missile launchers can shoot long range, short range, or medium range missiles.
Then you would love
for clan battle mechs. For clan second line battle mechs, she's not overly aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
She's only an 80-tonner, and if you can convince the
9 million.
plans to sell you one of these things, it'll run you roughly $9,183,000, assuming the currency transfers over 1-to-1.
You would love
Oh,
the
and I was in
mech
error. They
design.
were actually. Oh, that's on the original version.
You would love the mech design that I created then. It's called the RX-7, and its right arm
Oh,
transforms
well,
into a heavy cannon.
let's plan on not next stream, but the stream after that. I give you an
Yeah.
intro dive into the BattleTech universe,
Okay.
because if you like the story of Game of Thrones, but you don't like the overly blue-pilled nature of how a certain individual deals with some of her adversaries,
Oh yeah.
you'll love the BattleTech setting.
The RX-7 that I designed, the right arm can transform into that gun.
Uh-huh.
It also has a blade that extends out of the arm. So it doesn't have to hold the blade itself. It can just slash.
So
All the
very
blades
much an anime-inspired piece of ordnance.
Mm-hmm. And
I
then the
can't blame you there.
shield, and then the left arm can turn into an what's the term for an electromagnetic shield?
That'd probably be adequate. I'm gonna switch
So
cameras for a sec. I'm gonna switch cameras for a second, gentlemen, and show you something that's on my work table, waiting to be finished.
so in the story that I wrote, you got to understand that it's during the time when the Alliance, aka the Earth Federation, is switching over from old school ammunition style bullets over to like more new tech, like lasers and energy weapons. Ooh,
This is a variation on the Warhammer design.
I like it.
Yeah, it's honestly being done up in a color palette inspired by our little online group of misfits. Here's another one with an incredibly unfortunate numerical designator.
Does it involve 6 and 9?
No, it actually gets worse. This is a blackjack battle mech. Now that's the name of the mech.
Interesting.
The numeric designator is Bravo, Juliet, and then the number of the configuration. So the very first one was the BJ1.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Like I said, a very unfortunate, a very unfortunately numbered mech.
Well, it is what it is.
Okay. And bear in mind, I'm a huge fan of the BattleTech universe because of the amount of detail that went into it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I am very much willing to be honest and say that they really were not thinking through some of the things that they came up with. But I'll put together a little presentation for not, like I said, not next stream, but the stream after that.
Yeah.
Because, all right, we've been going for about an hour.
Okay.
I've pretty much run through my intended topics because only a couple of people showed up. The conversation wasn't as vibrant as I was hoping for. So we're going to go ahead and end the stream here in a couple of minutes, but I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on what the next 2 streams are going to be. In 2 weeks, I'm planning to do a what went wrong type stream.
Okay.
I'm aiming to get some fellow veterans on, including somebody that you guys haven't seen on a stream in this space before, if he can get, or if he has the time. And this is a guy I've known personally, and he's been going through some absolute garbage in his military career currently.
Yeah.
So I really want to get him, or have him come on and let him do the catharsis of telling some of his stories,
Okay.
because I think that actually is helpful to get over some of the mess that he's gone into. And I think the stream immediately after that is going to be a intro to the BattleTech universe. The
Sounds interesting.
5 great houses, the overall setting, just a generalization to give people who are interested but never jumped in a reason to actually jump in and buy some of the books. And I'm not talking about necessarily the rule book and playing the game, because if you do that, great. I'm talking about the fiction behind it. If
Yeah.
you guys like a nice, deep story setting that is still wide open enough that you could create your own stories within it,
Mm-hmm.
BattleTech's for you.
Okay. I like it.
I mean, Outlaw,
Yeah.
there are literally stories that you would look at and go, that dude was red pill as AF. And at
Sweet.
least one heir apparent who you would definitely call a blue pill simp.
Mm.
But apparently he gave the lady he was after a good enough time that she was kind of blue pill on him. To the point where she literally convinced her father, a neo samurai, to let him stay on their capital world after he was kicked out of his own country.
Oh shit.
So, column A, column B.
Sounds good. I like it. Heck yeah.
But that's my thoughts for what the next couple of weeks are going to look like, or next couple of streams are going to look like. So, end of this month, aiming for a veteran stories type stream. Maybe I'll bring a couple other folks on who aren't military veterans to tell some of their stories of where things went absolutely pear-shaped and how they fixed it. Or if they were even able to fix it. And then the next week after that is going to be a pop culture story stream.
Nice.
So I think that's a good way to do this, where one stream's a topic on something that might be a little left field. Next stream, quasi-topic, where people can just come on and tell stories that relate to a certain theme. And then another stream talking about something pop culture-wise that is obscure, but I think people would enjoy if they actually gave it a chance. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Jackal and Outlaw so they can each give any final things that they wish to say tonight. Jackal, since you were on first, you get to be the first one to finish out.
Oh, well, keep your mind open, because when a closed-minded individual is not particularly going to be what you would call ready for when Shisa hits the fan. So keeping an open mind is one way to avoid that.
Okay.
Also, try to enjoy the small things here and there, because it's just going to be more fun that way.
Absolutely, man.
Yep.
Good wisdom coming from a 20-year-old.
Kind of.
Okay, Outlaw, do you have anything you would like to close on?
Well, like I said already, you can't outright intellectually say that these reptilians exist or they don't. Like you said earlier, you have to keep an open mind with things. I mean, to claim one way or another would be to basically have knowledge that other people don't, and we know that that's not true. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like with life on other planets. is there a way we can prove it? Is there a way we can't prove it? Who knows, right? Because UFOs are they're just basically anything that we've never seen before. So it could be anything, but yeah, it's been an interesting conversation. To be intellectually honest, just say I don't know, But yeah, I enjoyed the conversation. Appreciate you having me, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. You're always welcome, man. With the exception of when I have topics that really don't fit into your knowledge base.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, and kind of tying into what Outlaw was saying just now, I'm going to pick up a random item and I'm going to toss it in front of the screen. I want you to tell me if you can identify it. Were you able to identify what I just did there?
Nope.
No.
Guess what I just created for you then?
Nothing?
No. I just created a UFO because it was an unidentified flying object. Well,
Yeah.
technically it was falling, but same difference. And for giggles, here's what it was.
Oh, just glue.
Mm-hmm. And no, I don't sniff it, so don't even ask. Hey, some of the stuff that we talk about on these shows, I'm sure people think you guys are high as bloody kites.
I mean, I know people that are high when they're online, but I'm not one of them.
Yeah, but on that note, I'm just going to go ahead and give the truncated version of the pop safety brief. Keep your head on a swivel, keep your eyes open. Do not engage with individuals that you do not think you can actually do anything with. And for heaven's sake, if you're going to go out and engage in activities with people, be safe about it, use protection, and try to make sure it's somebody you can trust.
Yep.
And flush it down the toilet, daggone it.
And whatever you do, make sure your partner doesn't have an iguana's face when you're done with it. We don't want a V scenario here.
Oh yeah.
Someone got that reference. I was hoping one of you two would catch that reference.
You guys know me by now, man. I don't pick up on references very well.
Well, that's why I was
Neither do
hoping
I.
you
I
would catch that
I
one.
just scream. I just scream.
But you guys have a good one. Be safe and see you in a couple of weeks.
Goodbye, guys.
Let me get the end or cutout done.